Hello, everybody. So normally on Mondays at 7:30 Central European Standard Time, you would be watching me on my weekly show on the People for People, but this week it's not possible. And normally, I was actually thinking that I'm not going to speak this week, but there's been a couple of things that have been coming up for me lately. And I do believe that sharing them is kind of a priority for all of us to understand, or more like to understand certain things that are taking place. So that's why I'm recording this myself, and I do hope that it is going to work, since I'm not technological at all, but I guess it shouldn't be too difficult. So the topic that I felt guided to speak about is actually kind of, if I had to bring a certain background of how I actually got to those things, I think it was over a week ago when I was just in my usual morning meditation. And suddenly I started kind of inner hearing the bells just ringing. But it wasn't like the usual ringing of those regular 3D bells, but it was kind of something beyond it, like the ringing of the eternal harmonics, the sound of the spheres, if that makes sense. And so I was thinking, what is that really? And then I think I saw a couple of different bell towers on this planet, kind of like responding to that call, let's say, and they also started ringing. And I was like, what is that? Why do I see, or more like, why do I see and hear all of those different bells ringing? And the answer that came, I actually kind of saw the image of the Effie consciousness field. And I heard this name, the call of the host. And I thought to myself, what is that? Am I going crazy because I'm hearing the bells ringing in my head? Or what exactly is it related to? And the information about it kind of came like a couple of days ago. I had that vision in my mind, and I was just kind of like debating on which kind of topic I should speak about. And then again, this call of the host has reappeared. So what is it really about? I'm going to explain you how does it actually relate to the certain circumstances on the planet that we are right now facing. And actually, those are really good circumstances. It's nothing negative at all. I'm going to explain how that's actually related to that calling towards awakening that some of us are receiving these days. And how does it actually relate to all of those other things I've been mentioning about a little bit on my different shows about the nomicide, the rainbow plasmas, the eternal urea frequencies. I'm going to basically just kind of touch base on most important topics, but that I think that each one of us who wants to assist this planet should know about. We are going to speak about the call of the host and the eternal crystal river host, and how to manage interference during the times of the host. If you're kind of feeling like you're a targeted individual, I think that this information might be quite precious to you. We are also going to look into the roles during the eternal host, what kind of different, I would say, host masters contracts we can actually take during the eternal host, which is the highest level of the host. How can we actually connect to those energies that are coming to this planet these days? And we are also going to speak a little bit about different perspectives on the fall, because there is something very special and profound that is taking place along with the eternal host. And that is actually the fact that in the past, different races were kind of left out, like we would be thinking about taking an ascension wave and just doing everything that we could to make it, while those intruders were making it much more difficult. And it was a never-ending VV game. And it seems like the Guardian races came to a certain conclusion that in order to make it happen, for us and for them, we have to do it together. And so the question is, how are we actually going to do that? So this is something that I'm going to speak about today. I hope that you will enjoy this information. You will see for yourself whether you resonate with that or not. However, I would say that these days, there's a certain reality to it that if you want to integrate all of your aspects of consciousness, it's not just about integrating your light and activating more of your light, but it's also about facing your darkness and transforming it into something better. So, having said all of that, I guess this show will be quite short since I don't even have so many of the things prepared, even though, who knows, I guess we'll see. So, what is the call of the host about? So, like as I mentioned in the beginning, the call of the host started with me kind of hearing the bells, and then the name call of the host actually appeared. So, before I explain what that is, as I've been saying many times, we've got different levels of creation. And as you all know, we are in the third dimension of the external creation. And that's where we basically, in the external creation, we've got the 15-dimensional systems, kind of going like up the ladder. And we actually coexist in each one of those dimensions. So our light body is a 15-dimensional structure, and we actually exist simultaneously in each one of those dimensions. During the dream state, you are having the opportunity to experience your astral body in dimension 4. And you can also actually project all the way up to all of those different stations of your identity. When it comes to the internal creation, that's when the plasma body comes into place. It is that energetic layer inside of our body. So the internal body is internal because it's on the inside of us. But we have one more layer because we've got 3 levels of creation. External, which is the light body, internal, the plasma body, and eternal, which is the urea body, or more like the vapor body, if that's easier to say, the vapor body. The vapor body is both on the outside and both on the inside. So this means that we've got a certain core that is kind of like between chakra 3 and 4. That's where the core of the urea vapor body is. But at the same time, this body is actually located in each one of our simultaneous incarnations. So it's really vast and huge. And actually, once you fully integrate that body within yourself, you're actually becoming a fully embodied eternal self. So this is like the highest level possible. And then you can choose to again seed yourself in different creation domains, or you can just stay that fully embodied eternal self that co-creates with different other eternal self-identities of other people or other beings. It doesn't have to be just the human beings. And so they co-create in a space called the Highland Heavens. And the Highland Heavens are located in the eternal creation domains. And I would say that for a very long time, the memory of the highland heavens has actually been lost. But now, since this is not the external or the internal host, but the eternal, we are actually getting in touch with the highland heaven planes. And the reason why I'm explaining the highland heavens is because the call of the host is an ancient call coming from the highest levels of our creation, the eternal creation, highland heavens. The call of the host is a calling for the entire creation and all life forms within it to begin their journey towards reunion with the God Source consciousness. All the experiences, lessons, and new discoveries are integrated and brought back to the 0 point. It is a calling for each conscious energy identity to pick up all its parts and integrate itself into one. So that's what the call of the host is. There are basically these different cycles. The easiest way to explain it is through cycles, where there is like a huge burst of the eternal energies. We can say like a new creation wave is coming in and is downstepping itself into various domains of the internal and external creation. And then that wave is kind of like developing itself. It's growing, it's evolving, it's expressing itself, and we are the expressions of that eternal wave in a very downstepped form. And then there is a moment when that wave is kind of collecting all of the pieces together, becoming oneness again. And it's coming up through something called the Tartarian window, the window of the first passage, when that creation wave is coming in. And then the window of the last passage, when that creation wave is coming out. And in the meantime, a new creation wave is coming in. So like one is coming out, the other one is coming in, right? That's how this dynamic works. So we are in this very profound moment when that creation wave that has been learning, experiencing, developing itself in all sorts of forms, received the call of the host from the highland heavens that it's time to go back home. I hope that makes sense. The call of the host is an energetic event on a cosmoversal scale that happens every few trillion years. Of course, in the time scale of Earth. Or it also happens at special circumstances when the eternal creation frequencies need to be brought into the internal and external creation fields to be able to sustain the perpetual energy flow and the Christ law. And this is the circumstances that we are at, where the level of the reversals that's been taking place, the breach of the Christ law, has went too far. And now it's not only the external creation that got infected, because normally like the internal plasmas would come in and they would support the external creation domains, but we've got even distortions on the level of the internal creation plasma templates. And that's like on a much bigger level, not just on personal levels. So that requires those eternal energies to come in and start vaporizing everything that is out, kind of like not aligned with that divine blueprint. The first calling of the host initiated in year 2000. That was like when that stellar activation cycle began. Certain beings had a feeling that this would already kind of go so far. And that's actually when already certain agreements kind of took place. That's why there's been so many awakenings after the year 2000 in the beginning of the 21st century. And that's why certain contracts have already been upgraded back then, or more like kind of those contracts were introduced. And then everybody's awakening in the right time, but kind of like about those awakenings, I will get to that in a moment. So the first calling of the host initiated in 2000, right after the beginning of the stellar activation cycle. And the calling is being renewed every 8 years. So kind of like every octant, we've got like a really big calling that is activating something. And what that is, I will get to that. But we also have the smaller calls every 1, 2, and 4 years. Ever since the Nomiya wave cycle began, the call of the host is transmitted during the first peak of the Nomi wave, which is between the 8th and the 12th of April. So this is kind of around the time when I was hearing those bells. And I didn't quite realize that this is when that kind of initiation of that call of the host was taking place. And that actually, if we look at it this way, this year we had like the strongest, like the most powerful call of the host. Well, the last one that was the most powerful was like 8 years ago in 2016. So this year is actually profound because we received the most amplified call of the host, and it will be amplified also during the chevron wave that will come at the end of May during the Hitaro period. So how does it actually work? How is the call of the host coming down to the planet, and how is it related to the physical buildings that are here? So the call of the host is being transmitted from the 0 point of all creation through the highland heavens and into the internal and external creation domains in a form of silent sound, radiation vapor wave that travels through various systems and planets and speaks to the templates of all life forms. Every single being or conscious identity receives the calling of the host and has the conscious choice to accept it or not. And very often it's also like a choice on a higher self level. Not all of us are aware that they are actually taking on the call of the host. So this is something to be aware about. The waves of the eternal creation are usually almost invisible. They may manifest as slightly translucent shades with the slight rainbow color. We can feel these waves in our bodies in the form of internal movement or vibration that is incredibly harmonizing for the mind and brings a very strong embodiment of the realization that we are all one. So this concept of the fact that everything is one and that everything is coming from one energy field, that's been something that has been known for a long time, but it's a kind of worth kind of asking yourself, do I actually feel that within me? Do I just understand this concept with my conscious mind? Or do I truly feel it within myself, very deeply in my core, that we are all oneness? When it comes to the eternal creation, when we kind of look into the structure of the eternal systems, the way that you experience those planes is actually not like through seeing stuff and kind of like keeping your consciousness like kind of like just like you do it in the astral projections, like you're just seeing things and experiencing different planes. But actually, it's about something that is referred to as the spatial sense of touch. And that means that everything is experienced through the movement of eternal waves. So I would actually dare to say that some people that are awakening their light languages these days, like mostly through the movement of their hands and their bodies, they might be able to upgrade their light language to the level of the eternal language, because at first it might be just the expression of their light bodies. But actually, if they start working with different eternal creation energies, they might start to see and feel the difference in themselves and how this light language is actually going through their bodies and it becomes this eternal language. Because when you're in the fields of the eternal creation, you experience that through the movement. The wave is moving, the energy is being is circulating through that eternal wave, and everything is filled in with this beautiful vital force referred to as the Urada force. So that's kind of how it works. Everything is expressed through movement of those eternal waves that create the entire architecture of the eternal creation planes. And speaking about kind of like how does the planet receive the call of the host? So I think that the way that it kind of came to me is like I was just going through my Facebook page and I saw a post from Ian Parks, who is posting a lot of those different Tartarian buildings. And I have like a sense that I have a very deep connection with the Tartaria, actually. And I saw this kind of like a church, and it had kind of like those crosses and kind of like different geometry on it. And I was like, right. So actually the call of the host is coming as this specific energetic wave. And then we've got so many buildings on this planet that are actually serving as the broadcasting stations for all of those waves that are coming to this planet. So that's kind of how it came to me. And if we look at it this way, we've got so many buildings on this planet and we don't even know what they are used for. All of those ancient technologies that used to be kind of like, they were a part of our knowledge, a part of our science. They are right now being used for all sorts of rituals, which I think is quite sad. Okay, so I'm just gonna read what I actually got about that. Certain buildings on this planet have been specifically designed to receive the call of the host and other high-frequency transmissions of electromagnetic waves, or in simple terms, just ether. These buildings served, and still partially do, as planetary antennas that broadcast these energies throughout the entire grid system. This especially includes the Tartarian buildings with arched doorway, magnetron resonators. For example, we've got different crosses, or like the four-leaved clover, or the flowers. They kind of like different geometries that actually are electromagnetic tools, if we look at it this way. Many of these buildings have been destroyed on the planet to prevent us from receiving these frequency transmissions, so that we do not receive the call of the host, the call for the eternal awakening. So those buildings were actually supposed to assist with anchoring that wave, those eternal waves that were coming from the highland heavens. So a part of that agenda when it comes to destroying those buildings was not just taking away this advanced technology from us, but also preventing the planet from being able to successfully anchor those different frequency waves that were coming from different creation domains, whether that was external, internal, or eternal creation. There used to be even certain instruments that used to be aligned with the Christic music scale, allowing us to express the frequencies of the eternal waves into audible sound to anchor them in the external creation fields. Some bells of the Tartarian cathedral, different bell towers, used to have the same function. And now mostly those bells have been distorted, but they actually, the reason why we had those bell towers was also to emit those specific radiation sound frequencies when certain energetic events were taking place. So I just wanted to mention that because I think that this is something that is quite interesting. And why was Earth chosen to take the call of the eternal host? You may wonder, like, there's so many planets on the universe. Why Earth? So I'm just gonna present my perspective on it. Earth has always been a special planet in the entire cosmos. There are certain systems and planets that hold the keys for ascension of other systems. Oh gosh, I lost myself in the middle of the sentence. I'm just gonna start all over again. There's been some kind of a deep feeling coming in. There are certain systems and planets that hold the keys for ascension of other systems if they lose such potential themselves. Earth is one of them. So I guess that deep feeling whenever I'm kind of like speaking about Earth being the ascension station for other systems, I guess it came in again. Because there are certain rescue stations, like if there is a condition of fall, and this has been something that has been quite common in our Cosmea domain, that becomes a really big problem. What are you gonna do with those systems? Are you just going to close them so that they space dust? Or are you actually going to help those beings come back so that they can bring back all those precious experiences back to the source? So Earth is one of such systems through which other planets and other living beings and other systems and even galaxies can actually kind of connect to so that they receive assistance in case of fall. The planet's location of the universal Stargate 3 and its connection with Andromeda Galaxy that holds the divine blueprint for restoration of the Milky Way galaxy are another two reasons for its importance. Earth also used to be Aramatena, a location of the universal Stargate 12, because first Earth was Aramatena, then it fell into Gaia, then into Tara, and then into Earth. So it's actually still holding that divine blueprint, and it actually makes it like a central place in our universe. In order to assist races that have suffered from the template damage due to the fall of Aramatena gates and help with the Elian first fall that occurred in the internal creation fields way before the creation of this time matrix. I'm gonna get to that, what actually happened during this Elian first fall. But due to those events, the fall of Aramatena and the Elian first fall, Earth has chosen to fully embrace its destiny as an ascension planet and remember its path back, first to its internal immaculate version, the Araya Earth. That's gonna be like the internal. And then to the eternal primordial version, which is the Urea Earth. So there will be certain stages of evolution of our planet back to the eternal cycles. Our planet, as a loving, sensitive, and very conscious being, has the urge and desire to assist all other life forms that have the free will to do so with bioregenesis and restoration of their eternal source connection. The angelic human collective is the embodiment and expression of this will. So we are assisting the planet with this process. So the Earth, our Mother Earth, has chosen to receive that call because actually it has big reasons to do so. The planet has always felt responsible for all its beings that are on it. So when the fall of Aramatena took place, and many of us fell, already back then and then on Tara and way before on Gaia as well, the planet wanted to assist us with getting back our pieces. But when that fragmentation also started to take place in the first density, right here in 3D, that became a problem and Earth needed assistance. So it actually decided to reactivate its ancient codes that allow this planet to come back quicker than usual, back into its eternal self version. And I think that is actually something that is quite profound. The fact that this planet decided to fall so low, because if we were still on the level of Tara or Gaia, we wouldn't be able to make it. We had to downstep ourselves all the way to the first density, because that's the only level that allows this planet to kind of create that frequency base, a certain structure for all of the other dimensions to be healed. And that is through the planet activating its Nomi code and becoming the noble Nomi planet. So I will explain what actually the noble Nomi planet means. The noble Nomi planets are fulfilling the key aspects of the eternal crystal river host, referred to as the grand cosmoversal salvage mission, which aims at rescuing not only the Christic life forms and systems that are in danger of fall, but also the phantom fall and gone fall systems, including all consciousness that lives within them. So what does it actually mean? In case somebody doesn't know the difference between the phantom fall and the gone fall. So the gone fall system, well, maybe I'm going to start with the phantom fall. So the phantom fall system is the system that is holding a certain amount of the critical mass of reversal, but it's still having certain amount of the Christic energies. And actually Earth is located in the phantom system, like this Milky Way galaxy reached the status of the phantom fall. But it's not the gone fall, because the gone fall is like 100% reversed on the light body and plasma body levels, while the phantom fall still holds a certain level of Christic frequencies, at least in their plasma templates. So that's kind of the difference. And as the noble Nomi planet is activating itself, it's rescuing not only the Christic systems that kind of are in that state where they want to follow the Christ law, But they are located in a galaxy that is falling. So what are they gonna do? They need to connect to the host. And the noble planets have so much love in themselves that they actually want to also assist the Phantom and the Gonfo systems. Regardless of the template reversal level, each system, collective or being, is offered the host opportunity and has the chance to take it and begin its healing process, which would be the accelerated bioregenesis under the supervision of the Nomia Guardian collectives. Some of us will be assisting with that process as well. The noble planets usually take on a lot on themselves in order to fall this low to the point where they can rebirth again. So it's like as if the planet is rebirthing again, and serve as the last resort for all of its tormentors. The noble Nomi planets can be perceived as the most loving conscious beings that have enormous amounts of love, compassion, and grace for all Christic and fallen systems, collectives, and beings. They are aware that everything happens for a reason, and that everything gets restored back into divine right order in the divine right timing. And that this time has come, as our noble Nomi Earth has received its call of the host. So now we receive the call, so it is the divine right timing to bring back the divine right order. And so we have experienced a lot of racism on this planet over the course of our history. But that's kind of what has also started taking place among different spiritual communities, where we are saying Pleiadians are good, but reptilians are bad. We kind of make that bipolarity among those collectives. Obviously, not all of them are serving for our highest good. But that's not really the idea of the host. We are uniting all of them. And we are all supposed to bring that option, because it cannot be forced. But we basically bring the host offer to all of the races, no matter whether they hurt us in the past. It's not about being like, oh, you I don't know, you abducted me 20,000 years ago, and so I'm not gonna give you the host now, you can just go space dust. No, it doesn't work like that. A part of kind of like healing our reversals as well is healing all those traumas with those beings, realizing that they are also a part of us, and that you may have a consciousness family also in those fallen collectives. So are you going to leave that part of yourself just because it's fallen, or are you gonna take it and integrate it within you? So that's kind of the mission that kind of appears here, where all of those collectives are coming back home along with us. And since we have so much Christic factor within us, and some of us are also the embodiments of those Nomia guardians from the Highland Heavens, they are basically supposed to assist with that process. And that will be taking place mostly through the Nomi seed. And in case somebody doesn't know what the Nomi seed is, I'm just gonna kind of explain what that is. The planetary Nomi seed that was activated in the November of 2016 is the Earth's rainbow bubble of eternal creation that carries the primordial encryption of planet's eternal self-version, the Urea Earth. So it's as if a part of the Urea Earth has been kind of like extracted out and brought back here so that we can breathe in those eternal frequencies so that we can also pick up those encryptions that will realign us with the version of that planet. It also progressively starts to reactivate the eternal encryptions of all life forms and systems that chose the eternal host path. The Nomicide was activated in Earth's core when the planet had decided to become a fully activated noble Nomi planet, becoming an ascension station, one of the very few in the universe, through which other systems, planets, and life forms can usually, in danger of fall, pick up the frequencies that would also allow them to achieve expanded bioregenesis regardless of the template reversal level and fully embrace the path of the rescue, the path of the reunion with the Aya, God Source consciousness, from which we all come from and we will all eventually return to. Okay, that was a long sentence. So, through the activation of the Nomicide, we start to have the primordial encryptions activated, the eternal encryptions. So if you choose to connect to the Nomicide, and I'm gonna tell you how to do that later, you are basically encrypting yourself within that seed. And nobody can take your encryption. It doesn't work like that. So you have your encryption there. And through that, you have this connection with the Nomicide that starts to charge you with the frequencies of the eternal creation streams. But at the same time, there are the eternal encryptions there of not only other people who also made the same choice, but we've got the primordial encryptions of animals, all sorts of fish, birds, I don't know, lions, bears, all of the animals that chose the host path because like they must make that choice. They also actually receive, they also kind of encrypt themselves within that seed. All other races that, let's say, are not on this planet but have been connected with it in different ways, and that mainly also includes the intruder races, the fallen angelic legions. If they choose the path of the host, they are basically the encryption, let's say like the eternal manifestation template is being created for them inside of that Nomicide. And through that imprint, they are starting to evolve and grow and heal. So that is actually something that is very profound. And I think I was speaking about that, I don't know, I think that was at the end of March, so almost a month ago, when I have seen that primordial spider, like looking like a beautiful big crystal spider inside of the Nomicide. And so that basically meant, and I think I didn't quite explain it back then, that this imprint is like the divine imprint that every Borgia spider being can choose to follow, so that they basically take the host and they start to bring back that encryption. So we are not going to have those nasty black Borgias anymore. We are going to have beautiful crystal spiders. So that's kind of how it works. And there are many different missions these days to actually provide such imprint for every single collective that decides for the host path. So that's kind of how it works these days. And I would say that this is an amazing gift for many beings that maybe they didn't realize it on a conscious level, but this is like the most beautiful gift from the planet to them and also to us, where that victim-victimizer game that has been going for eons is finally coming to an end. So I'm just going to conclude it with what I wrote, and also I'm gonna kind of expand on how is it with those awakenings and kind of awakenings to your different contracts. So the nomicide contains all primordial encryptions of all life forms on this planet and other systems, planets, or beings that chose the host path through connecting with Earth. Access to those primordial eternal encryption allows us to progressively reactivate these encryptions directly in our DNA template, which means you are gradually reawakening your NOMI gene potential. Some of us, especially those that feel the resonance with the nomicide frequencies, may be the direct embodiments of the Nomiya guardians, who descended from the eternal creation highland heavens into the external creation 3D realm in order to assist with the cosmoversal healing process and progressive transition back to the Urada cycles of eternal creation. The soul essences of the Nomiya guardians receive the call of the host. This automatically triggers activation of the ancient eternal encryptions that became dormant when these soul essences entered the external creation fields. So there is the awakening of those codes. Only the eternal creation highland heaven frequency broadcast can reawaken these encryptions. And it's higher than the K+8 factor. It's actually kind of like the K+8 to 12. So that's like a really, really high type of the frequency transmission. Every single soul essence of the Nomiya guardian has a choice when and in which circumstances they will choose to activate. When the Nomiya essence receives, accepts, and fully embraces their call of the host, their planetary contract gets upgraded, and they can begin to fulfill their higher mission. And it's not always on a fully conscious level. We've got many people walking around, processing the frequencies, and they are not even aware of that. But something that is very profound about those Nomiya guardians is that they kind of came here a long time ago, and they actually came to exactly for that eternal host in order to actually retrieve all of those different aspects of themselves that have fallen a long time ago among with other, let's say, other friends that they used to have in the Highland Heaven realms. So there's something very special about those souls, and they can identify themselves as indigos and crystal children and all of that, but it doesn't actually matter what your template you think you have. There is like this kind of like an extra template behind it, the eternal template. And once the call of the host gets accepted by that soul, like each one of those souls is finding a different moment to reawaken. So it can be at the age of 12, at the age of 25, or even at the age of 70 years old. It doesn't, the age doesn't matter here. They know what is the divine right timing for them. So they basically decide to take that host, or more like to accept the call of the host, take the host themselves, and then assist with the entire process. They start to get awakened to their roles. And at the end, I'm going to speak like what those different roles are, because they are actually, I think they are quite interesting. So, how long will the eternal crystal river host last? And what are the priorities during this period? The eternal crystal river host will last over the next 900 years, progressively allowing this planet to fully unite with its eternal self version, the Urea Earth. Certain processes that will occur during this period of time include transition from the external time cycles into the deity internal time cycles, and then into the Urada eternal time cycles. So we are gonna be shifting timelines. And we do that all the time, but now it's actually accelerating. Reawakening of planetary bright flower gardens, which allows for the blending between the 3D Earth and the Urea Earth. So like the planet starts to very quickly kind of realign itself with that eternal self identity. Restoration of the external light body and internal plasma body templates into their immaculate encryptions and their progressive transfiguration into the eternal vapor body. Retrieval and reclamation of the phantom fall and gone fall systems, something that I mentioned a moment ago. Embodiment of the eternal encryptions stored in the Nomisit among all beings that are a part of the eternal host. Integration and full embodiment of the collective planetary eternal self-identity, the Urea Earth, and the individual eternal self levels, which are the Urea bodies. Opening of the Stargate systems of the external creation, which are the Amenti gates, the internal creation, the Alhambra Cathedral complex, and the eternal creation, bright flower gardens, their progressive clearing and amplification, so all stargates are being opened and reawakened and realigned. Transition into the Christic models of society. So this might happen over the next years where at least certain groups of people will start to create certain communities, and that will lead to introduction of the synocracy, which is the organic Christic model of the society. And the regular call of the host transmissions to trigger awakening of the Nomia guardian essences. Many of them are still asleep due to the dark flowering. So also one of the priorities, at least for the next few years, is clearing the entire planet from the dark flowering affliction, because that's kind of still stopping certain souls from reawakening. It's kind of keeping their coding quite dormant. So that's why it's important to actually clear the planet out of that disease. And speaking about the distortions, I'm going to speak a little bit about how to manage interference at times of the eternal host, because the rules are a little bit different. And that's actually good news for all of us, where if you experience attacks, interference, and all of it, you can progressively start managing it. And that's actually quite simple how you can manage it. You're simply asking for help. Because we have been taught to kind of like either go to a certain healer to get some entities from our fields, or we kind of had to work with certain things ourselves, but we can also ask for help. So I'm going to explain how that actually works. If you experience interference that is too difficult for you to manage, you have the full right to ask for help. The Nomia guardian races that interact with our planet through the Nomisit are at our disposal. During the 900-year period of the Crystal River host, all breaches of the universal law are not tolerated any longer. One of the aspects of the host mission is to bring back the Christ law to all the realms and systems that chose consciously the host path. The free will choice is always respected, However, any collectives or systems that did not accept the host conditions are no longer allowed to harass and exploit the systems that chose the Christ path. If such breach takes place, an individual or a collective has the full right to receive support from further interference. You just have to ask for help, because actually if you don't, the guardians will never kind of interfere if you don't ask for help yourself. So it's kind of like a message that has been coming through lately from my guardians, that if there's like a certain really nasty interference taking place, you have the right to ask for help, because that's something that is trying to mess with you, and these are not really the rules any longer. So it's been also something that's been quite challenging for me, because I've been always learning how to manage things myself. And even though I've been managing the interference myself, it was kind of like a message, like you could direct your energy somewhere else at this point, and you can just let us deal with it, because those beings that come to you, they mostly want the host. So what I've been doing is that I've been just sending those beings down to the Nomi seat, because they simply were coming in because they wanted the host. If you happen to ask for help and you do not receive it straight away, it is possible that you need to experience a certain 3D drama as an aspect of your experience. Trust in the divine right timing and divine right order. Your eternal self knows what is the best for you. So if you're asking for help, but it doesn't come straight away, there is a certain reason for it. And there is a chance that there is a certain connection to those different attacks, certain associations that you need to figure out before it actually goes away. So everybody has kind of like an individual path. And if there are still certain openings in your field that cause this interference to come in, you need to find those openings and close them. Otherwise, this might kind of keep going. So you can ask for help, but if you don't receive it, this is kind of like a message, like there is something that you're missing, and perhaps you just need to kind of discover it. Okay. And speaking about the fallen races, or maybe I'm just gonna leave that for the end. So how can I connect to the eternal crystal river host? So we have 3 main power points in the body through which we can actually connect directly to the host frequencies. So I'm going to mention those 3 places, 3 tools that we can use, each one of us, and I'm going to kind of just briefly explain how to work with it. So the first one is the blue lotus tether line, and it's like a pale blue line of energy that goes all the way through your central vertical current. It's going like this, kind of like a thin, pale blue line. It anchors in the Nomi seat, goes through your body, and all the way up to M31 Andromeda. And as you remember, Andromeda is that place through which the host frequencies are being transmitted from there to Earth. It connects us to host frequencies broadcasted directly through M31 and to the sphere of Amenti, which is located there. So we are connecting to that divine blueprint this way. So this blue lotus tether line that goes through our bodies, you can breathe through it, and you can expand it like a pillar around your body. You can bring the energies from Andromeda and use it for different kinds of healings in the body. You can bring the energy simultaneously through that blue line from Andromeda and from the Nomisit at the same time in order to create like a sphere of energy around you, or like a shining armor. Or as I said, this tiny blue line can become like a pillar around you if you expand it many times. And basically, when those energies from Andromeda and Nomisit come together, it's kind of like they create this beautiful pale blue, translucent kind of light with plasma light with the rainbow sparkles. So that's how it looks like. We also have the Nomisit, which is the Earth's rainbow bubble of eternal creation. That connects us to the planetary host field and also allows us to seed our personal encryption so that we can directly access broadcasts of the eternal creation energies. So the best way to connect with the Nomisit is to kind of create like a spark of intention in your heart chakra. You're kind of like, I would like to connect with the host, with the crystal river host and the Nomisit. You're sending that spark down to the core of the planet because the Nomisit is right in the center of Earth's core. And then you're just bringing this energy like a stream into your body, and it's basically having the rainbow color. It's the rainbow plasma spectra. We also have the Trantin window, and it's basically looking like a diamond. It's kind of in the shape of a diamond, and it's located in our chakra 14, which is about 90 centimeters above our physical body head. I think that's about 36 inches. It is the window of the first and last passage through which the conscious identity enters and later leaves the fields of internal and external creation. So when I was speaking about those creation waves coming in, they are coming kind of from the eternal to the internal and external creation through that Trantin window, and then they are coming out. So most of us will actually ascend back to the eternal creation domains through our Trantin window. The Trantin window, the Trantin magic window, is called the magic window because through that window magic happens, I would say. It has very strong healing frequencies. And it directly connects us to the Ura Lake Conservatory, eternal creation domains, allowing us to receive transmissions of the urea vapor spectra from our eternal self-identity. So the easiest way to just kind of like work with that window, the way I usually work with this is that like I'm also kind of like sending a spark towards it. And I start to bring those vapors down into my body. And those vapors are actually starting to directly reactivate and amplify your urea vapor body. So it's actually very powerful. And it allows you to receive probably, I would say, like the strongest currents of energies from your eternal self, because when the Trantin window starts to transmit you energies, it's actually also sending you these new creation waves. So like you're replenishing your quantum. So I would say that this is quite a wonderful place in our multidimensional eternal anatomy. So those three places, or more like energy centers, the blue lotus tether line, the Nomisit, and the Trantin window. These are like the three main tools to use when it comes to connecting to the host and receiving those broadcasts of the eternal frequency spectra, as well as kind of tuning in with those transmissions of the call of the host. So, speaking about kind of transitioning and getting out of this realm, I received like a short message about the waves of transfiguration. So the cyclic waves of transfiguration which are expected to begin from 2027, that's the date that is kind of coming up a lot, are those waves of transfiguration, they are the embodiment of the call of the host. Throughout the 900-year period of the eternal host, we will experience multiple waves of amplified eternal energies that will allow the planetary life field and the planet itself to progressively transition into next levels of its evolutionary cycles. These transfiguration waves will allow for the evolutionary jumps that enable us rapid transition from the external time cycles into the internal and eternal time cycles. So it's like one of those priorities that I have been mentioning when it comes to the Crystal River host. Since everyone has a different unique encryption and their own soul plan, it will happen at a different pace for everyone. Even though usually the twins and families of the same consciousness that came to this realm will usually choose to go together, go back home together. The transfiguration waves will reach everyone who expresses the free will choice to join the host. We all come home. This is the motto of the eternal host. Everything is coming back to the creation point, to the first creation point. So before I get to the roles during the eternal host, I will just explain a little bit on the fall. When we speak about this Elian first fall, which was actually the first fall in our Crystar. Because I personally think, and some of you might disagree with me, but that's my perspective. And of course, everything we've been speaking about so far is purely theoretical. It's just always worth mentioning that. Who believes that, who experiences that, it's just your personal perspective. However, the way I see it is that it's been kind of like a victim-victimizer game, obviously, where we heard about this fall of Aramatena, that suddenly certain races started degenerating, that they decided to remove their strand 12, and they ended up with either 10 or 11 strands. And so they were disconnected from dimension 12, which is the Christ consciousness. We all know it. But the fall, if we kind of look back, the fall has much deeper origins. And the fall has been brought from other levels of creation. Even if we look at the Fatally races and the fact that they are the fallen femmes. And so like that's technically how they started that whole Fatally factor and the generation of those internal templates as well. From my perspective, the entire fall started much deeper. It didn't just start on the level of the external creation. The way that it always works is that if there's a certain twist in the higher dimensions, let's say we've got a fall on the level of dimension 10. It's affecting all the lower dimensions because the dimension 10 is containing the subharmonic levels of all of the dimensions below it. So, if the fall took place, if there are certain distortions on the level of the internal creation, then the fall must have also happened there. and the twists that I am seeing in the plasma templates, and not just me, but also my lovely friend Caroline, we have quite similar insights about that. There's a lot of twists in the elemental plasma bodies, and that is directly suggesting distortions in the internal structures. And how did they come to place? They didn't come to place through the external creation. Otherwise, like if that was like a certain twist in the external creation, it would maybe reach a certain critical mass level and like, I don't know, start infecting certain levels of the plasma template. But there would be a certain point where this distortion wouldn't be able to go too far because it wouldn't have enough charge. While the distortions that we are seeing these days with the black goo, which is pretty much like a 100% reversed ether, this is something that is not organic, and this is something that didn't take place in this time matrix. First of all, it took place in other Cosmea domain, and it took place on the levels of the internal creation. So I'm gonna explain now how that took place. And as I said, it may resonate with you or not, but that's my deeper perspective on it. I remember myself being terribly frustrated when I would be reading about the fall of Draconian and the Anu races, because I didn't quite understand how that would take place out of a sudden. If everything was technically we have a free will choice, but would they just decide to disconnect from the source frequencies? I think that there's been a certain manipulation out there. So I'm gonna give a certain background to it. As I said, that's just my personal perspective, and something doesn't want me to speak about it, which is quite funny. That's why I'm kind of extending that in time, but I like to be on point, so I'm just gonna get to the point. This time matrix and the life forms within it had a good reason to begin the externalization cycles here. Long before the Brenau Rishi seeded the founder races in density 4 of our time matrix 950 billion years ago, there has been many other issues with the neighboring systems, such as the Borgia or the Wisa fall matrices. The fall, however, has been brought from another Cosmea. What we call now evil is a result of the experiment that took place. And the races have been seeded into this time matrix to actually not get entangled into that trauma, but in order to assist other domains, once we would get like into a certain level of evolution, in order to assist those other races with kind of stopping that experiment that took place, first in the internal creation, and later it spread out to the domains of the external creation. The fallen Elasians that decided to cut off from the source as a certain experiment are nowadays referred to as the Black Dragons or the Fallen Legions. So the Elasians, a part of them decided to try, okay, what would it be, what kind of mentality we would reach once we would completely disconnect from the source on this level. So it was like technically it would bring a lot of experience, a lot of precious experience into the source. How do we actually reach that level? And then we have to overcome it. But it has gone quite far. And I think that they didn't realize how far it could get. That's one of the reasons why so many Christic Elasian races are helping us right now through the gift of the Elasa triple spiral. They want to assist us with getting free of the consequences of the experiment that took place eons of years ago. but we are still experiencing very tangible reality of that decision. That's one of the main reasons why the Nomia Guardians downstepped into the internal and external creation domains in order to assist the Elasians with healing the damage caused by this experiment. Now, at the time of the Crystal River host, which is an eternal host, we are bringing this experiment to an end, returning all quantum back to the source, along with all the lessons and experiences. So that's kind of the story of the fallen Elasians deciding for a certain experiment that changed the entire timeline of many, many systems. And we cannot blame them for this decision. I think that it has been a precious experience, but the call of the host took place because enough is enough. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. So the last thing that I'm going to speak about, and I cannot believe I've been already talking for 1 hour and 20 minutes, almost. Okay, we've got the roles during the eternal host. And those roles, kind of those upgrades of those contracts, are referred to as the host master guardian councils. And there are different roles. I will just kind of mention the main ones. And it's also related to all of those priorities that we have mentioned before. So we've got the eternal flame holder, which carries the host frequencies in its template and broadcasts them through the grids and to the other forms of life. So the flame holders are receiving the energies of the host. They process it through their templates. So they are having very advanced DNA templates. And later on, they are sending those energies through the grids and to the other forms of life. They don't always have to be aware of it. The next one is called the Eternal Spirit Guardian, which assists with integration of souls, releases trapped fragments of the quantum from the fall systems, and assists with the bioregenesis of various races. So this Eternal Spirit Guardian is basically kind of taking on that role of kind of like assisting other races with the integration process. And that's important because actually, if you want to embody your spectra of the eternal self, you have to get all of those soul fragmentations back, and they are usually scattered all over the universe. So they are kind of like assisting with that process in different ways, either through like direct assistance or also like through different frequency transmissions through the grids. And also through going to those fall systems. So they also include kind of like have the coding that allows them to process different fall energies so that they don't get stuck in those systems, so that they can kind of like go back and forth and rescue different souls that got stuck. And they also assist with the bioregenesis of various fallen races. We've got the Eternal Transfiguration Master, and it basically embodies the eternal ascension mechanics to transfigure its form and transition into the next realm. It usually works with future timelines to assist the planet and all its life forms to get on the highest timeline possible. So the way that it works is that this Eternal Transfiguration Master assists with getting the planet on the best timeline. And also, it's actually something that many of us are doing, that through the personal activations that we are going through, we are also kind of like assisting the grids, the life forms around us, to also pick up those transfiguration codes on the subharmonic level, so that they could also trigger activations on the personal level. We've got the eternal holders of the Christ, and they basically reinforce the Christic law to systems that accepted the host, assist with restoration of the manifestation templates in phantom fall and gone fall systems. So the holders of the Christ are basically assisting with those different host arrangements that are taking place, so that all of the races that want to join the host can feel free to do that. We've got also the eternal time masters, which realign and heal various timelines on multiple levels, spreading the host frequencies to past, future, and present. So as I said before, I don't even know when, on one of my previous videos, those host energies are not just being transmitted here, but also into different timelines, because we are aligning all of them with the host, with the ascension timeline. And they often work with various guardian races, establishing a communication line between them and humanity. So they are kind of also like the time travelers. That's why they are the time masters. Okay, so this is pretty much everything that I prepared for today. I wanted to share a couple of information about the host, so that you can get different perspectives on it. I think that we are on a very good track when it comes to that. And I am very much looking forward to the changes that are going to take place over the next few months and years and decades. We'll see how that is going to progress. But I would say that we've got some amazing news. We received that call of the host, I would say almost 2 weeks ago. So we can start preparing for that chevron wave that will be coming at the end of May. And just experience this beautiful reawakening and integration process that is taking place on the planet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Next week, I will probably speak about the implants and different kinds of implant systems in the body and how to manage those situations. I think that's going to be quite essential for some of you. But for now, I wish you a wonderful day or a wonderful evening, whatever time it is for you when you're listening to it. And I'm gonna see you next week. Bye-bye.